What's up, you guys? Welcome back into iHeartRadio's official wrestling podcast, the Battleground Podcast. It is Battle from 105.9 The Rock, Nashville's Classic Rock. I've got my co-host, Eli, who decided that he thought Tony Schiavone and Tony Khan's AEW control room was cool, so he decided to make his own control room. Eli's on the show, and let's just go ahead and introduce our guest, the guy that has the most visits on the show, and nobody can ever catch up to Tony. Khan joins the show. There he is. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, and I'm very excited to see you soon in Nashville, and I'm very excited. We're just hours away from the finals of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament on Wednesday night Dynamite. It's a huge week. It's one of the biggest weeks in wrestling, and there's nowhere I'd rather be to talk about it than right here with Tim and Eli on the Battleground.
Man, we appreciate that. And it's every time we've always had these conversations with Tony. If you've ever watched these interviews or listened to him, we always ask him off the air, when are you coming to Nashville? When are you coming to Nashville? And he's like, well, we'll figure it out. And then, of course, all of a sudden we're watching TV and it's boom, blood and guts in Nashville. And I was like, yes, we're super excited about that for sure.
Patience pays off. Yes.
But let's kind of jump right into this. Everybody's been, kind of watching every week on AEW Dynamite. And last Wednesday, we saw a little vignettes of someone with a mask jumping through a portal, and heard that, on the internet, there's a rumor that a puma might be on the loose. But I want to just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Can we confirm that was you in the mask traveling through the portals?
I can confirm that was definitely not me in the mask. And I think it's going to be great. It's somebody I'm excited for, but it's, not necessarily teasing the biggest free agent signing or anything like that, but it's a wrestler we're really excited about, and it's cool to use vignettes to get people excited about introducing somebody to AEW, and I think it's going to be something really cool. That vignette got people talking on Collision, and we'll have more of that, and it's really fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to do the second? Do you want to do back to back?
Yeah, we'll just do that. So, we look at it and it's crazy to think that we're 7 months into the year and summer of 2024 turning into the summer of Ospreay, right? What has been the biggest impact of signing the biggest free agent in the world on the AEW brand and roster, such as Ospreay?
He's been such a breath of fresh air. We're really lucky to have Will Ospreay in AEW. He's such a blessing to this company. He's a great wrestler, and he's such a phenomenal leader in AEW also. Everybody really respects Will Ospreay. Not only is the international champion and a great pro wrestler, but a great mind for wrestling. And he's stepped in and become a real leader in AEW. And also, he's one of the best I've ever seen in this business in terms of his athleticism, his charisma, everything Will Ospreay brings to AEW. We're just so lucky to have him, and we're so fortunate to have this great international champion like Will Ospreay here.
Yeah, and it's, his opponents so far in AEW, the feedback seems like that they've elevated, and it's like, well, that's what a megastar does. He elevates the talent around him, and he makes everyone look like a 5-star athlete. So yeah, it's been very incredible to watch. Since the last time we spoke, AEW's had 3 critically acclaimed pay-per-views: Dynasty, Double or Nothing, and Forbidden Door. What do you think seems to be the, kind of the magic ingredients for you guys to kind of put on these these critically acclaimed pay-per-views on a regular basis?
Well, thanks for asking, Eli. I think you're right. We're on this amazing hot streak. We've had those 3 straight great pay-per-views, and before that, probably the best pay-per-view we've ever done, one of the best wrestling pay-per-views of all time. AEW Revolution, Sting's final encounter, Sting's last match. It was perfect. It was a perfect night. Sting and Darby versus the Young Bucks, one of the best matches and certainly the greatest send-off I've ever seen in wrestling. And the show, top to bottom, was fantastic. I mean, Ospreay versus Takeshita is one of the best matches we've ever had. We had Moxley Claudio versus FTR, Bryan Danielson versus Eddie Kingston. That Revolution show was really a special event. And then we followed it up with Dynasty, which was every bit as great. It was a great show. And then Double or Nothing and Forbidden Door have just been excellent, excellent shows. So I think you're right. That's 4 straight great pay-per-views. They're all different. There's different elements, different matchups, different traditions, different things we bring to those different cities. They've all been great events in great places, whether it was Greensboro for Revolution or Dynasty in St. Louis, Las Vegas for Double or Nothing, and of course, UBS Arena in New York at Forbidden Door. That's the great energy AEW brings to the top cities. And I can't wait for that these next few weeks. We've got such a big run of events. Like I said, we're hours away from Wednesday Night Dynamite in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's going to be one of the biggest events we've had to have the Owen Hart Foundation finals. And we'll find out who's wrestling for the World Championships at AEW All In, Wembley Stadium, hours from now on TBS on Wednesday Night Dynamite. And then the next week is going to be episode 250.
Wow.
Dynamite 250 coming up. It's amazing.
It's crazy.
And we're just about a week away. That's going to be in Little Rock. So we're going to Arkansas, making our debut there. It's going to be a great night for Dynamite 250. And then 1 week later, we're right there with you guys in Nashville. Everybody can get their tickets now. It's July 24th, Wednesday night. The ticketing time will be in the 6:30 range, but we're going to go live. Everybody's got to be there by 7 because we're going to go live on TBS and worldwide in 150 countries from Nashville, Bridgestone, Blood and Guts. We're just about 2 weeks away. That's going to be a great event. I know you're both going to be there, and I think a lot of your listeners are going to be coming to AEW on Wednesday night also.
Absolutely. And you better grab those tickets right now. AEWtix.com. That's AEWTIX.com. Go grab them. Don't ask me for tickets because you have to go buy them. I'm buying my ticket. You have to buy your ticket if you're watching.
They're hard to come by
right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned the finals for the Owen Cup are here just an hours away. Hangman Adam Page set off to face against the American Dragon Bryan Danielson. Whoever wins gets that title shot against Swerve Strickland at All In. What would it mean for Danielson to become world champion during his, last full year of in-ring competition, as he recently announced, much less to do it on a stage like Wembley?
Well, that's a very interesting possibility here. We've got so many great scenarios here, and I think it makes for such a great tournament final and a really unpredictable match when Hangman Page fights Bryan Danielson hours from now on TBS coming up in the Owen Hart Foundation finals on AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite. It's one of the biggest matches we've ever had, and it's Hangman versus Danielson Part 4. All 4 matches have been on huge episodes of Dynamite. They had these great matches. The first one was at Winter is Coming in 2021. Then in 2022, they wrestled in the first ever match on the first show ever on TBS when we moved Dynamite on Wednesdays to TBS. And then later that year, they wrestled in the Grand Slam Tournament of Champions. And the series is tied 1-1-1. 3 matches. Each man has a win. And there was this classic 60-minute draw. And I think they've got one of the greatest rivalries. And both of them are chasing a very different goal going into Wembley Stadium. I think they have different goals, different things they want out of this match and out of Wembley Stadium. And both of them have different objectives, but at the same time, they're 2 of our greatest stars. Together, they form one of our greatest rivalries. We have a fantastic world champion in Swerve Strickland, who is going to be returning coming up on Wednesday Night Dynamite hours from now on TBS. It's going to be a great night, and it's one of our biggest shows, and we're coming off a huge accomplishment. Last Wednesday was the first time in the history of AEW Dynamite we had done this. Now, we were the #1 show on cable. We've done that many times, and I'm very proud because it was 248 episodes, and a lot of times over the years, we've been the #1 show in cable out of those episodes, and that's really cool. And something we had never done before, not only on cable, but out of all the networks, in the 18 to 34 audience, we were the #1 show on all of television last Wednesday. And that's pretty big, to do that on TBS, to beat all the networks, to beat all the networks that are frankly available in more homes, because not everyone has cable or TBS, but a lot of people do. And there were enough people and enough AEW fans to make us #1 in America of all networks. That is something never we have done before. So the AEW audience, more impressive than ever. And a lot of people are going to take notice of that. It's a really exciting time for AEW. And we have a great home on TBS every Wednesday, like hours from now on TBS for AEW. Every weekend on TNT. And you guys are some of the OG AEW fans. You guys have been making it possible, supporting us from the very beginning. So that's why I always like to come on your show and talk with you guys, Tim and Eli, about what's happening in AEW now.
And we greatly appreciate that. Me and Eli were actually talking about that the other day, is like when we first had everybody on, like the Bucks and Cody and all them. And I think it was like on our show that they announced, hey, we're calling it Dynamite on Wednesdays. And I was like, this is great. And it just goes to show the test of time. I mean, you talked about coming up on 250 episodes. And some people out there on the internet said you wouldn't even make it to 100 episodes, you know? And now here we are making them eat crow. And here we are, 250 still going strong.
Yeah, absolutely. 250 coming up. 250 episodes of Wednesday Night Dynamite, and we'll celebrate that very soon on TBS. And it's a great milestone, and I'm very confident we'll do at least 250 more and many more beyond that. And we're doing some very special things in AEW, and I think we're going to be around for a very, very long time here. Not only proving people wrong, but really the reason I do this is for the wrestling fans. You know, the most important thing is proving all the fans right that have supported us or ever flipped on the show and said, I want to check this out and give it an opportunity. I'm very grateful for that. And lately, we've been pulling more and more fans in. We've made some new fans with some of these new stars, and also great to bring in that young audience last week with the return of some of our original stars recently. We've had MJF back for the first time in all of 24, first time back all year last month, and he's back in, and we saw a darker side of MJF last week. That was a big deal. Yeah. And everyone's going to want to see what is coming next after that, after the way the show ended last week. And then to have that happen, and not only what happened with MJF last week, but so many exciting things happening in AEW. There are a lot of reasons to tune into AEW Dynamite coming up on Wednesday night very soon. But I also think getting Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, back, and her being
very excited.
A new star, the TBS champion, Mercedes Moné. That's an exciting new rivalry, and people are really captivated by that. It's been a big draw. Hangman Page returning to AEW, one of our greatest stars ever, one of our great champions, one of the most important wrestlers ever here. He's been a world tag team champion with Kenny Omega, and then they began probably the greatest story ever in AEW, culminating in Hangman winning the championship. And I think Hangman's greatest matches as champion were versus Bryan Danielson, the man he's wrestling for a shot at the title coming up hours from now on Wednesday Night Dynamite.
It's going to be incredible. And it's great to see how things have played out. Cause I sit here and you talk about Hangman Page. When we first started this podcast, it was like 2018. The very first guest we had on was Hangman Adam Page when he was part of the 6-man tag team champions with the Bucks. Wow. And it's so cool just to kind of see how things are going. A little backstory about behind the show, but I digress.
Yeah. So we'll be stingy and we'll ask a Nashville question. So of course, you know, Blood and Guts come into Nashville July 24th, Bridgestone Arena, AEW Dynamite. Now we don't have all the details of the match concrete yet, but just generally speaking, you know, what do you think we're going to be looking forward to in this edition of the match? And a question a lot of people are curious about is, when do you think we're going to see a women's version of the Blood and Guts match?
Well, I know right now, like you said, Mark Briscoe has announced he's involved in it. I think that's very exciting. And really with Mark Briscoe now battling the Elite, we have Mark Briscoe stepping up to join Team AEW. The Elite have tried to tear this place apart. Since the last time I saw you guys, I had suffered a very brutal attack around the NFL draft. And I think
we heard about that. Yeah.
Very well caught up on that and everything that transpired. And the Young Bucks attempted a hostile takeover of AEW along with Jack Perry and Okada, the Elite. Now they have all the championships too. They've got the World Tag Team Championship. They've got the Continental Championship, and Jack Perry has become the TNT champion. They have more power, more stroke than ever, and the Elite are battling to take over AEW. And there's a lot of people that love this place that want to stop them. And Mark Briscoe is one of them, and we're going to have a great Team AEW versus the Elite, and we're going to learn more about it. and we've had these great men's blood and guts matches. I think they've been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, it would be great to have a women's blood and guts match. I think you need a lot of people tied in on story and a lot of healthy people. We've had a great roster that we're building up, and I think our women's roster is stronger than it's ever been right now today, and I'm really excited about that. So if we ever get to the point where we've got enough people tied together and the story makes sense, I think it would be great.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And, you mentioned the fans, and without the fans, there would be no AEW. And, there, like any other company, AEW's had some growing pains along the way, injury bugs and whatnot. And of course, no shortage of criticism. I mean, you've seen all the reports on the interweb where people want to say this and that, and then you just go out and prove them wrong. But one thing I saw recently, for example, was after the last few pay-per-views, fans have kind of taken to social media expressing, the noticeable lack of merch at the merch stand, at the shows, at live events. When you hear something like that, do you take it as people want to spend money? Let's correct this. Or is there like data to back the amount of like selection that is available at shows?
Well, we have a COO who came in this year. It's his first year, and he's still making a lot of changes, Koshe Irby. Mm-hmm. And I'm very hands-on with the wrestling show, and I think we've been putting on our best wrestling shows recently. We've had our best run of pay-per-views, and the last episode of Dynamite last Wednesday is widely considered to be maybe the best show we've ever done. And I think a lot of people felt that way. Certainly when you look at, some of the reviews and the feedback we've gotten, a lot of people say that's one of the best episodes ever in AEW and a great, great wrestling show. I'm really proud of it. Last week, of course, we had those Owen Hart tournament matches, and then MJF betrayal at the end of the show. It was a really captivating night of wrestling. I'm very focused on the wrestling. As you can tell, every aspect of it, every wrestler in the company, I have a great group of people around me on details, people pitching ideas. And at the end of the day, I'm responsible for putting a show and a format together and an outline that's a great show. We've had a great run of pay-per-views, and our TV has been very, very strong. Not only was last week one of the best episodes of wrestling we've ever done, but it was also a huge milestone for us to be the #1 show on all of television in the 18 to 34 demo, and overall the #1 show on cable. And I think that's really huge for us. And I am so obsessed and focused on the wrestling. And Koshe coming in is going to be great. These are the areas where I know he's going to add a lot of strength. Not only does he have experience in wrestling and other sporting enterprises, but he was the CMO of Clemson when so to be the CMO of a great university. Obviously, here at the Jaguars, I'm a big fan of Clemson University and their athletes. We have Travis Etienne, and of course, our leader, our quarterback, our franchise star, Trevor Lawrence, is a Clemson man. And I'm a big supporter of it. And Dabo Swinney is my really good friend and a big supporter of AEW and everything we do here in Jacksonville. So for Clemson, to bring a huge stud like that, the CMO of a top university, one of the top college sports programs, he brings a lot of institutional knowledge, and also he's a wrestling guy. So these are the kind of things I think he'll be able to, make a really positive influence. And it's his first year, and, that's really good feedback.
Yes. That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Well, we've talked about the stretch we've got coming up. We've got Blood and Guts on the horizon, Death Before Dishonor, All in Wembley, All Out right after that. Any kind of final thoughts heading into Dynamite tonight? And then also, where's the best place for people to keep up all things AEW heading into this stretch?
Well, on our social media channels, we recap, the events of the previous shows and preview the upcoming shows. It's going to be a massive event, and you can watch it tonight on TBS, 8 p.m. Eastern for the people listening outside of Nashville. But for everybody there around the Nashville area, the show's on at 7. Everyone in the Central Time Zone, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Tonight at 7 on TBS, you're going to see one of the greatest wrestling shows ever. You're going to want to tune in early, maybe flip it on, catch some of the Big Bang Theory. It's 6:30, and they're a great lead-in for us, and we're going to have a great show on TBS. I promise it's going to be one of our best nights coming up hours from now. following up on the great show we did last week on Dynamite, to have something huge like that, this massive, massive episode of Wednesday Night Dynamite, to have the Owen Hart Foundation Cup Finals, to have Chris Jericho versus Samoa Joe in a Stampede street fight. There's so much to look forward to tonight on TBS. So tune in early, 6:55, 6:54, or whenever you come in a little early. But you
just get in there at 6 o'clock. Don't tell them 6:55. Just tell them to watch at 6.
Before 7, just 6:59 at the very, very, very latest, and we'll be going off at 7 p.m. Central Time on TBS. Going to be one of our best shows, I promise, and a huge run of shows that we're in the middle of right now, and it's a great time to jump into AEW right now. I promise we're doing some of the best wrestling we've ever done, and it's a great time for the wrestling business, and AEW is a huge, huge part of that conversation right now.